Hey guys, what's up? Welcome. As I adjust the camera here, make sure it's all adjusted. I forgot to add that super chats and super stickers are open and would be appreciated. Whatever you guys can do would be appreciated because super chats and super stickers, like I said, are indeed open. But with that said, welcome to today's Topics on My Mind for the 3rd of March 2022. That's right, we are basically in the month of spring. According to the dates, if you believe them, we are legitimately 10 days or 9.5 days away from daylight savings time, which I know my mom and anybody else that doesn't like driving when it gets dark really early are going to appreciate, because with daylight savings time, even though it takes a little bit of time over the next over the weeks that follow it and the months as well, you start getting more daylight, you know, as you get closer to like the later spring months and into the summer. So I know my mom and anybody else that doesn't like driving at night will really, really appreciate that. And we are also, I believe, 16, I think, days away, 16 and a half, seven, something like that, away from spring, which is really nice. We're kind of getting that right now. We're kind of in that situation to where you get a bit of a sneak peek, like in the weeks prior to March, to the beginning of March, like at the end of February, that you kind of get the sneak peeks. And then when you get into March, basically at the end of February into March, you start getting that mixture of warm, cold, in between, you name it. And even though it's 69 degrees outside right now, it feels a little chillier than that. And I think it's because there's still snow on the mountain top. And if you're wondering what this is, it's something I haven't had in a while. It's a V8. They do have other varieties of V8s, one with low sodium, some that are energy drinks, if you will, at least made to give you energy. And that would be my phone right now. Hold on. And that's my job. They're calling me. I'll see what they have to say. Basically, it's my day off, so if they're asking me to come in tomorrow, then I might, do that. But we'll see. See what I'm talking about with that kind of stuff, if you will. They probably think I'm out or something like that, and I didn't get to my phone. But like I said, the V8, they got some other flavors out there as well. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, um, yeah, I got a couple of topics, as you can probably see in the description, that we're going to talk about here. Um, we got a couple of topics we're going to talk about here as I check something, make sure everything is good here. Okay, everything's good. Yeah, like I said, that was my job. I don't know exactly what that was about. My mom usually tells me if I don't have a way to get there or anything like that, not to answer or anything, especially if it's your day off. And right now, I don't financially have a way to get there unless it's for tomorrow. Because basically, I think they need somebody to come in and do the cards or something like that. And unfortunately, that's not possible right now, if you know what I mean. And it's not that I don't mind the opportunity to work. It's the fact that, well, so I try to see if they left a message or anything. And they did. Hold on for a second, guys, while I check this.
You have one new message, seven saved messages. First voice message sent today at 4:09 p.m. New message from mailbox 20963.
Yeah, I just got a call from Melissa. Before we call back. Sorry to start out like this. Ten minutes in. Sorry about this. coffee. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I tried to call my job back because apparently she wanted me to come in tomorrow at 10 to 4:15. I don't know if I should just show up or what or something, but where was I? And hello to Derpy Gaming in the live chat again, guys. Super chats and super stickers are open and would be appreciated. Whatever you guys can do. Anyway, let's get into this. Again, I do apologize. It's a little bit of that interruption there. I tried to call my job back. Apparently, they couldn't get a hold of her and everything. So that was obviously right now. I would say that it's probably busy over there. It's about 4:25, so I would assume she had to jump onto a register or something, and she couldn't get to the phone or something like that. Or maybe she went to lunch. I don't know. But I tried to call her back, and if I can't get a hold of her before the day is out, I'll probably just have to. I'm thinking whether or not I should just show up there tomorrow and just say, hey, I got your message. Here I am, and everything. But we'll see. We shall see. And that is a good question. I do plan to go see the movie that I will talk about in the topics and all that later on. But anyway, yeah, I just want to come on here with the topics on my mind for today. Like I said, March 3rd, 2022. Long story, not long story short, but as usual, because I'm still a little thrown off by the phone call there. Long story short, not long story short, but basically to start off, like I said, I'm a little thrown off by the phone call there that happened, trying to call them back and everything to try to, see what we can do. But to get to the point here, basically, what I like to do lately with a lot of these vlogs, well, not vlogs, but these topics on my mind is kind of do a bit of a vlog here and there, kind of let you know what's going on and stuff. And, speaking of my job, yesterday, it was a good day. It was kind of one of those days to where you're supposed to do the job you're assigned to do. And I did do that towards the end, but you end up doing the other job that you're also assigned to do when you're assigned to do it, because it's all part of your, the area you're hired into doing. But basically yesterday I was originally supposed to do carts right off the bat. Well, not carts, but I was originally supposed to cashier. I was originally supposed to cashier right off the bat. And what happened is I got the call. Well, not the call, but I came in. Well, because one of the things the buses do, the ones I take during the day to get to work, one of the things they do is they basically get me to. Just drinking my V8, but they usually get me to my job on time. Yesterday, as far as I know, it was a little strange. It was a little strange because one of the newer drivers they had basically took over the 9 o'clock one, or basically the 10 o'clock, the 9:30, 10 o'clock bus that goes to Turtle Lock, the 45 East. Because the one that originally does it, she was going on lunch, which was kind of strange. Anyway, they take over, and I tell them right before we get to the bus stop where I'm supposed to be dropped off, I need to be dropped off here. They don't do that. They just, they see somebody there, the passenger, the person at the bus stop saying, no, you're not my ride. And they just keep going. And I have to say, hey, you forgot to stop. And they have to finally pull over to another bus stop a few blocks, well, not a few blocks down, well, basically half a block down, basically in the same area, and drop me off there because they're like, oh, well, you needed to pull this, pull the stop, wire and all that to, to get me to stop and everything. And they didn't do that. They didn't tell me I was supposed to do that when I got on the bus. And I always look at that wire thinking, should I stop here? Or should I pull it to say, hey, you need to stop here? And because usually we tell them, hey, this is where we need to be stopped. Can you drop us off here? Anyway, though, yeah, got off the bus, had about, I would say 20 minutes or so to go, 20 plus minutes, a little over 30, just around 30. I get into the store and immediately I'm asked by one of my front end managers, hey, can you start early? And I'm like, oh, sure, no problem. Because I'm figuring, hey, I can start early. Not a big deal. I'm cool with that. Not a big deal. I'm cool with that. So what happens is I start, and I'm wondering why I'm starting. And both of one of the other managers who has a name similar to my mom's is like, oh, he's here, because originally she was supposed to try to call me earlier to say, hey, can you ask me to come in early? And so I was there, and they assigned me to do carts because the guy that was supposed to come in had called out or something like that. So I came in. So I started early by at least, I should say, 20 plus minutes, and I started doing carts. And I did carts up until about 4:15. And the other guy that was supposed to be there was there, the 4:15 guy. He showed up, and he took over, and I went back to cashiering, which was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. But what wasn't cool was what happened later. So I get off at 5:45, and I have about, between that and 7:11, if you will, 7:10, I figure, okay, I got a little over an hour to go, like 5:45 to, well, actually I got off at I officially clocked out at 5:55 or something like that, around that. So I'm figuring, okay, I have, 60 minutes. So because basically 5:45 to 6:45 is an hour, right? So I figure, okay, I have around an hour. I have around 50 plus minutes, right? Because 55 to 45 is 50 minutes, and then you add 55 to 55, that's an hour. So 55 to 55, I have about an hour, right? And then I look at 05, and I'm thinking, okay, I have about 70 minutes. I figure I have about 75 minutes in between, when I clocked out and when the bus arrives, right? Well, here's the thing. I go and I shop, with my EBT card. One of the things, of course, I buy is, my first, I think, 6-pack of V8, along with 2 6-packs of 12-ounce, or, not 12-ounce, but 16-ounce Coca-Colas, as well as some, tortillas, the flour tortillas, the corn tortillas, medium size, you name it, the burrito size, super soft ones. As well as I buy 2 pods of donut shop coffee because it was on special price, buy one, get one 25% off. So I buy the dark version, the donut shop dark flavor, which my mom's been more profitable to because apparently the dark coffee wakes her up a little bit more. As well as I try out as well as I buy the coconut and mocha duo flavor, which I tried this morning, the coconut and mocha, and it's pretty good. So I buy those, and I'm carrying them, right? So I go to the side of the store because I have enough time remaining. And, of course, I do the video talking about one of the topics I'm going to talk about today. And killing some time and everything. So after I'm done doing the video, I get up, I walk towards the bus station, and I go there. And I wait on the bus. Well, not wait on the bus, but I wait there for a minute until, my bus arrives. Well, not a minute, but I wait there for at least what I would consider at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the bus arrives, right? So I'm waiting, and basically what happens is a lot of the buses that are supposed to come a little after it come before it. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? Because I'm waiting and the time has expired for it to show up. And all these other buses, whether the START buses or the Total Lock Transit buses, Total Lock Transit, I should say, START buses, Total Lock Transit, no matter which ones they are, they all come before this guy. Some are scheduled to come, mostly the Total Lock Transit ones, I should say. Most of those are, meant to come before the guy. But the other START ones are supposed to come like a little afterwards or around the same time. This guy does not show up. The one I'm supposed to take, the 45E, the 45 East, which becomes 45W or 45 West. This guy does not show up until almost 15 minutes later. And here's what's interesting. I come on to social media, and everybody, including my sister, they basically tell me, hey, don't be so complacent about it. Don't be so, moanful about it and all that. And to me, I'm like, I'm not being moanful. I'm not being complacent. It's just when you're used to a bus being on time to get you to your destination, you expect them to be on time. This guy is 15 minutes down. Now, he has 2 passengers with him. And I will say this. There's a good chance, because I brought this up to my mom, that these could be his kids. And he has to watch them until the wife gets home or gets off, right? And, okay, fine. Not a problem. I can understand that. But if these are your kids, maybe, and hopefully maybe he has, I don't know. Maybe you need to let your job that hired you on to do this route know that, hey, I might be a little late picking up my passengers because I got to go and pick up my kids first before I pick up my passengers. But here's the thing. These kids look old enough to take care of themselves. They look old enough to take care of themselves, okay? Anyway, point being, this guy, finally shows up 15 minutes after. And I'm like, oh, this is BS, basically, okay? This is BS. So I get online for the second day in a row, and I go to the comment section that Stan RTA, that's STAN RTA, has to, allow people to address some issues. So again, I address the situation here. I address the fact that 15 minutes down, that basically this is not right. This is not good. And look, as I said before, I understand completely that sometimes, traffic is an issue. Sometimes the traffic lights are an issue. Not a problem. Road construction, accidents, they are issues for delay. I'm not denying that. But there was none of that as far as I know of. None of that. And then here's what's interesting. After he finally picks me up, and he doesn't have to pick anybody else up because the stops are empty. He's supposed to stop at the Total Lock Transit Center, right? And pull into the parking lot and everything, go use the facilities. He doesn't do that. And that's something that should be addressed. He doesn't stop there. Period. He just goes around, does the route, if you will. Probably, I guess he goes in, but then just comes out and he just goes. But it didn't seem like that. It felt like what he did is he went the route, went around circle, and just decided to proceed and go. All because he was falling behind. And what's interesting, though, too, is the guy sometimes would laugh just out of nowhere. Or just kind of like, kind of deal. And I'm like, okay, what the hell? Point being, there's something up with this guy. Now, like I said, not like I said, but let me make this perfectly clear. The guy's a good driver. He wouldn't have been hired on if he didn't have the credentials, or at least have the know-how, the knowledge to do this. But obviously, he has focal problems. Focusing problems is what he has. Maybe he can't focus. Maybe the timing in his head is off. I don't know. But here's the thing. So we're driving to Patterson, right? We get to Patterson. We get to the stop, the transit point, or the transfer point, if you will. We get there. We get to the transfer point. And next thing I know, for the second time this week, he asked me to get off the bus. Now, I could have left my stuff, the stuff I shop for, in there. Not a problem. I've done that before. But I've decided, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen with this guy, so I'm going to take my stuff and get off. So that's what I do. I take my groceries that I bought, as small as they were, and I get off. I get off the bus. And what's crazy is this guy says he's going to go take a walk. So what's he do for the second time this week, as far as I'm concerned, with me being on the bus? He decides to go across the street. Now, I can understand going across the street, going to the bank there, check your ATM and all that, fine. No. What he decides to do, and I don't know if I could show you this. I'll probably put like a little miniature video up so you guys can see it yourself. But this is what he decides to do. And again, I don't know if this will come in clearly. All right. I don't know if this will come in clearly. Let me check it. Okay. So here it is. I'm going to put this on for a second. I want you to notice that. I don't know if you can see it. That's the bus. And that's them in the background. They're going across the street to the store. Let me rewind that a little bit, okay? Let me rewind it. Okay, look at that. That's him and his kids going across the street to the store from where the bus is. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to stay in that area, in the area where the bus is. Okay? So him and his kids are doing that. Him and his kids are doing that. All right? And in this bus right here, this is the bus that came before him. On the app, it was registered to leave at about whatever time. Now, that's the guy. That's the bus driver. I don't know if you can see that. But that's the bus driver going. Okay. Let me see if I can. Now, like I said, that's the bus that came before us. According to the transit thing, it was supposed to leave, within like an hour or so or less. But then take a look at the guy there. Take a look. It's a little blurry, but I want you to look. You see that moving object there, right there? That thing that's moving? That's the bus driver going across the street when he's not supposed to. He's not supposed to go across the street to the store on the other side. He's supposed to stay in that area. If you're going to walk around the park area, that's fine. Not a big deal. But you're not supposed to go across the street. I think they would recommend you go to the quick serve over here on this end. It's a gas station to get, your snacks and all that instead of going the other way. But no, he has to go that way. And that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And what's crazy is we have people that wait for this bus. All right, we have a couple of people that wait for this bus. We have a guy that rides his bike that lives here in Newman, rides his bike to his job from the park. All right. He rides, rides his bike from the park where we get dropped off to wherever his job is. So he has to load it up. And here he is, like me, waiting for this guy to come back. And this guy, he has around less than 10 minutes before he has to take off on time. So what's he do? He basically kills more than that. Because when it hits 0, what's he do? He's still gone shopping. He's still out there. And I'm like, dude. And I'm like to myself, dude, this is not supposed to happen. If you're supposed to come on and do this job, you're supposed to do it right. And again, like I said, he's a good driver. He's a good driver. Don't get me wrong. Except I think he has trouble focusing. And he can't do that. He can't use the bus as his own personal car. He can't do that. So anyway, instead of leaving on time, from there, we leave, I would say, about 5-6 minutes late. All because this guy has to go do this walk or whatever. And then if that's not enough, we go over, when we finally board the bus and we go back on the route, we finally go to one of the stops that I'm familiar with, which is the one at Walmart. And we pick up a guy there. Obviously, the guy, and I say this with all due respect, no offense, obviously the guy has enough sense to know he has to show his disability card to get half off on the fare. He knows that. But the way he he comes up and he says, he mentions the disability card fare or whatever, and he's like, this is my voice. And I'm like, and I'm looking at, and I'm hearing this, and I'm like, okay, that was strange. Why is he saying this is my voice? Whatever. All right. So we pick him up. We keep going. We go and we pick up one of my former associates over at Walmart because, he's waiting at the other bus stop. Instead of the one in front of Walmart, he decides to go to the one that's across the street in back of the Save Mart. So we pick him up. All right, not a problem. Here's the issue. Okay? So not only was it once, but twice this driver had to call up the base. The first time, I think, was after he picked me up. He had to, I guess, figure something out or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Second time, actually, it was the first. No, it wasn't after. It wasn't, in Turlock, actually. It was actually at the Patterson bus stop. So he calls up dispatch, right? He calls up dispatch because there's a guy asking him, where's the 40, which is the big bus going to Modesto. And apparently that was the bus that I showed you was already leaving. So dispatch doesn't answer this driver. So he hangs up, basically shrugs, I guess, to the guy. And then the next thing I hear is a big old yell of, fuck! And I'm just like this. I'm looking up, I'm like, okay, I did not want to hear that. That was my reaction. I'm just trying to mind my own business, wait for the bus to take off. I see and hear this. I see this, and then I hear that, and I'm looking up. I'm like, okay, that was not good. Because you got to realize, and I say this with all due respect, no offense, when the guy stopped, shut the bus off, and had me, and then later on this other guy that came up with it on his bike, wait until he came back from his little rendezvous, which he shouldn't have been doing. That is the time of night that, unlike Saturday about, with the 6 o'clock, 6:30 deal, this being close to 9 o'clock, this is the time of night that you do not want to be in an area like that because of, the unpredictable with some of these people, if you know what I mean. But anyway, like I said, after he can't get a hold of dispatch and everything, he hangs up the mic or what is it, the walkie, if you will. He hangs it up, and then, like I said, you hear the big old "fuck" coming out, and I don't know if it's the guy that wanted to get on the 40 or if it's the driver. I don't really know, because if it's the driver, I'm thinking, well, obviously he has problems. He has some kind of, and I say this with all due respect, no offense. He probably has some mental problems along with the focusing, but he's capable enough to drive. I don't know. So anyway, like I said, we finally get back on track. We get back on track. He picks everybody else up that's waiting, including the guy that's, like I said, and I say it with all due respect, no offense, it says, who went, "This is my voice," but has enough sense to realize he has to show his disability card and, get half off on the fare, stuff like that. So that brings me to Newman. So we head back here into Newman, and the guy that wants, the one that says, "This is my voice," and all that. I'm saying, okay, obviously has some problems, but like I said, has enough sense to, like I say, pay half fare and all that because of disability. This guy wants to be dropped off at the Burger King, and he lets the driver know when he gets on, "I want to be dropped off at the Burger King." And the driver's aware of this. But then the driver decides to tell him, like he once told me, "I can only do Merced and eucalyptus." And this guy, and you know what? Maybe I should be thankful for this. This guy basically told him that he has taken this route for years and that nobody has said anything against him going being dropped off at the Burger King. Nobody has ever said anything. No one has ever said anything about him being dropped off at the Burger King. No one's had an issue. He said, "I've been doing this for years," right? And the driver is still trying to be persistent that he can't do that. So I say, drop me off. So he knows already, drop me off at Merced and eucalyptus. And I'm thinking, well, if he gets the okay, then maybe I should do Burger King, right? I'm not doing that. I'm not chancing that whatsoever, okay? I'm not taking that chance. That's just my personal preference. I'm not taking that chance. So anyway, the guy, he tries to tell him that he's been taking the route for years. It's been usually okay for him to be dropped off there. And the driver is like, "Well, I can't really do that. I can only take you to Merced and eucalyptus." And so what happens after he gets to Merced and eucalyptus and drops me off, or gets ready to drop me off there as he gets in that location, he gets on the dispatch again, asks them about it, or tries to get in contact with them. And he's still telling the guy, "Hey, I can't do this. I can't really do this," right? So as he's getting ready to, ask dispatch about it, the guy with the disability that, talks about voice and all that, he's just, just sitting there going like, "Well, I guess I don't have a voice," or something like that. And the bus driver, I swear to God, Lord, forgive me for saying that, but I swear to God, the bus driver, after he hears the passenger go like, "Well, I guess I don't have a voice," or something like that, swear to God, the guy just turns around and says, "Excuse me, sir, what'd you say?" Like, excuse me, it's like, "Excuse me, sir, what'd you say?" Like, he wants to, like, basically he wants to try to get up in his face, like, like intimidate him or something like that. Well, basically that's the feeling I got when he just said, "What, excuse me, sir, what'd you say?" It's kind of like, okay, pretend I'm the bus driver and I'm trying to dispatch radio, and I'm trying to contact dispatch, right? I'm trying to be like this. I'm trying to get ready to contact dispatch, right? And then the guy's like in the back, and the passenger's like, "Well, I guess I don't have a voice." This is what he does. He's like, "Excuse me, sir, what'd you say?" Like that. Like, again, he just turns around, turns his head and goes like, "Excuse me, sir, what'd you say?" And the vibes I got off that was, ooh, that's not good. Because You're not supposed to really make it sound like, you know, you want to intimidate them or, get up in their face. He didn't get up in his face or anything. He just had that, sound to his voice where he wanted to get up, go like, "What you say? What you say?" Kind of like that. That's what it felt like. And again, to me, this just proves that if this guy's going to keep driving, because again, he wouldn't have been hired if he didn't have the ability to do this. If they weren't confident he could do this. But if he's going to do this, he needs to have somebody with him, not just his kids, but he needs to have potentially another trainer. Someone that's going to be with him until he gets the idea, oh, I'm supposed to be here at this time, not dilly-dallying like I've been doing. Or I'm supposed to stay around here during my break, not go across the street to another store and waste an additional 5 or 6 minutes I shouldn't be wasting. You know what I'm saying? He needs one of those. He needs one of those, honestly. So anyway, he gets on dispatch. He finally gets a hold of dispatch, finally. And for the first time since I think he's been driving, they give him the okay. They say, oh, yeah, as long as it's safe to do, as long as the roads are flat and safe to do, that's fine. So finally, it takes somebody with a disability, and I say it with all due respect, no offense, with a disability, who comes out and says, things like, it comes out and says things like, oh, this is my voice and all that. But like I said, has enough sense to pay half fare and show the disability card. Finally, it takes somebody that obviously, is, without a roof over his head, or is going back to the shelter or whatever here in Newman, going back here. Well, I think that's what he's doing. Going back here to one of the shelters here in Newman. It takes someone like him to finally wake this driver up and make him realize, oh, we can do that. Hello. Finally, it takes somebody like that to wake him up and make him realize it. So maybe I might try it next time I get him on, get him as a driver. I say, yeah, you remember that guy that told you could do it? Well, remember dispatch told you could do it? The same goes for me. Because every other driver I've had recently, before this week, has been cool with it. They've been good with it. Cool and good with it. And, there's not been an issue. I mean, I get, okay? I get the fact that, you have to follow rules. You have to follow regulations. I understand that. I understand that completely, if you will. I understand that completely. You have to follow regulations. You have to follow rules. I get that. I understand that. And, for me, I get that these newer drivers, they want to follow the rules. They want to follow the regulations because they don't know of whether or not if they do, get the okay to do this or do that, that if it won't come back to bite them. And somebody might say, well, who gave you the consent to do that when you shouldn't have? So I can understand maybe they don't want to risk anything. I get it. I really do. I get it. I really do. But here's the thing. When you're doing a job like this, and you hear from everybody else that's probably been doing it a lot longer than you, that they've been given the okay to do certain things, to do certain courtesy stops and drop-offs and all that, then it should ring a bell. But it doesn't. But again, that's not the issue I have with this guy. I mean, look, as I said, he's a good driver. But my issue with him is he needs to focus better. He needs to manage his time better. I mean, you shouldn't be having to speed up almost beyond, let's say, the miles that you are required to drive, when you are on the road, whether it's 45 miles per hour or 55 miles or 40 miles, whatever, you're not supposed to speed up beyond that sometimes just to make up for lost time. I mean, a good example of what I'm talking about is we were going down, part of the path is going down one of the streets, that's right off the freeway going into Patterson, right? But it's this way. It's like my mom basically, she's like, okay, how do I put this? My mom basically goes like this. This is my mom coming home off the freeway. This is us going towards the freeway, but making a turn that my mom would take when she would go to get gas. Because my mom, she comes off the freeway, she goes and makes a turn this way to the mobile gas station along that has the Chester's Fried Chicken and the Baja Fresh. So she goes there to get gas and maybe get some dinner or whatever. And long story short, ladies and gentlemen, she does this. She does this on a daily routine when she comes home from work. Anyway, long story short, the point I'm getting at is she's going this way, to go there, right? So, we would take the same route. We would go the opposite way. The bus goes the opposite way, like it's going towards the freeway, but it also turns that way because that's part of the route. Well, what the guy does is he's going this way to turn down that way. He sees a regular sized truck, not a semi or anything. It's kind of like one of those trucks you would rent or something like that for moving or whatever, for moving furniture and all that, right? So what happens is the guy, he's basically going down this route. He turns and he's behind his truck, and instead he just goes this way and zoom, takes off faster than a bus like that normally should. And it's like, again, really, really kind of like weird that this guy is allowed to, be behind the wheel of something like this without like, let's say someone being there to train him on how to do things. All right. Train him to do it the proper way. Again, he's a good driver. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, I think his time management is off. I think that's what it is. His time management is off, and he needs to work on that. He really, really needs to work on that no matter what the scenario. He needs to work on that to, better himself at this job. Because if it's not going to be me, it's going to be somebody else that gets on him about, his driving, about what he's doing. And that's not going to be good. That's not going to be good. But yeah, yesterday, I had to wait beyond 15 minutes, and then all this takes place. And again, I'm thankful that maybe we got this homeless person that's probably going to a shelter here in Newman last night. I'm glad we got him, because at least finally this driver realizes, oh, when somebody wants to be dropped off at Burger King, it's cool. Okay, no problem. But then there's another issue. So at first, he was going to be reluctant about it, and then say, hey, and basically say, hey, I can take you as far as Gustine and then back and all that on Inyo and all that. Now, you know what this guy does after he drops somebody off at the last stop, whether it's Merced and Eucalyptus, or in this case, maybe now Burger King or wherever? You know what this guy does? Instead of going to Gustine, instead of finishing out the route, go to Gustine and all that, instead of finishing the route, he decides to turn around and head back to Patterson. I swear, I kid you not. And you might think, well, if he doesn't have no more passengers, then that's fine, right? Here's the thing. He could have one passenger in Gustine, and he's ignoring him. He doesn't realize that. So to me, this guy still has a lot to learn. And I've got a feeling, like I said, if it's not me that gets him not in trouble, but basically gets him to be talked to where they're going to say, so-and-so, we've heard these reports about you. We've seen what's been going on. So here's what's going to happen. You can have your kids with you. Or I get if that is their kids. It's like you can have your kids with you and all that and everything. But from now on, you're also going to have a trainer. And if the guy's response is why? And they're going to be like, so that way you could focus finally on getting to your destination on time and not dilly-dallying or whatever. I've got a feeling it's leaning towards that. I really do got a feeling it's leaning towards that. And this guy, I've got a feeling, is either going to have to deal with it or he's going to have to turn in his keys. Period. He really has. Or really not has, but he'll really have to, basically, when it's all said and done. But, yeah, it's just one of those scenarios that, it's just one of those scenarios to where you're just like flabbergasted, about
165.
Just turn off my TV there to save energy. But it's just one of those situations where you're flabbergasted about basically, how desperate some jobs are to get people. And I'm not saying that my job wasn't desperate to get me. I'm appreciative of the fact that they gave me an opportunity, which is why they're calling me, because they want me to work. And hello, Matt. Welcome to the live chat. Again, guys, super chats, super stickers are open and would be appreciated, whatever you guys can do. But yeah, again, I'm appreciative of the fact that my job wants me to work. They're calling me to come in. And I tried to call them back, as you saw at the beginning here, or heard at the beginning, depending on how you listen to this, watch or listen to this, I should say. Not a problem. Not a problem with that. But when it comes to certain jobs like bus driving, you need to make sure you get the right people. My mom was a former bus driver herself, said it best that during the day, you get the more of the professionals, the ones that are more focused and understanding of what has to be done. Well, those at night, well, you get the stranglers. You get the bottom of the pit, if you will, of bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the bargain bin, if you will, when it comes to drivers. Basically, you get the ones that just don't give a flying what. But yeah, it's just one of those. It's just one of those situations to where, look, I'm glad I get home safe and everything, but seriously, they need to, if I'm basically Stan RTA. That's STAN RTA. If I'm Stan RTA, trans development, whatever, I talk with my drivers, old, not old, but veteran and new. I talk to them and I say, look, for those of you that are, curious about some of these courtesy stops in Newman or Patterson or wherever, those are fine as long as the road is flat and safe enough for you to stop at to drop that person off. If it's going to take the stand RTA people to do that, then so be it. It's the only way, in my opinion. The only way. But honestly, maybe having that guy come on board, that guy with the disability, maybe that was the wake-up call this driver needed of, okay, maybe I should, okay, maybe it is okay to do these courtesy stops, but also maybe it woke him up and realize, hey, if I want to avoid these kind of people, maybe I should not dilly-dally all the time and stay on track. That's just my opinion. But anyway, though, guys, I know I spent about an hour talking about the vlog there. I just wanted to come on here and let you know what's been going on with the job and what's been going on mainly, going to and fro from the job as I turn on the light there. Even though it's not night, it looks like it's going to rain outside. So, it's got that dark cloudness, if you will. But anyway, on to the topics, and we're going to read off the topics here. The first topic we're going to talk about and it's a very interesting one. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, is it part of biblical prophecy? I'll talk about that because, you know, I think a lot of people might find that interesting. The second topic we'll go with, following up on what I talked about last night. Tony Khan, the owner of All Elite Wrestling, co-owner of Jacksonville Jaguars, buys Ring of Honor Wrestling and all its assets. We'll talk about that. Number 3, we'll talk about tons of entertainment, sports, etc. being pulled from Russia because of its invasion, being pulled, prohibited, whatever you want to call it. Number 4, we'll talk about Vince McMahon's interview on the Pat McAfee show. And today we'll talk about some of the highlights. Number 5, we'll talk about the current MLB lockout and opening day being scheduled with more games to be canceled. Will the whole season follow? We'll talk about that. And finally, number 6, we will talk about, will the Batman set a standard for how long comic book movies can be to the whole story? In other words, like watch time, like how long can you go? So, with that said, as I set myself in here, with that said, as I get my glasses, not the ones I use for work, but my glasses here. With that said, guys, at not a minute, but at an hour and 2, and let's just wait till we hit 63 minutes, an hour and 3 minutes, if you will. But as we hit 63 minutes, an hour and 3 here, let's talk about our first topic, and that is Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Is it all part of biblical prophecy? And I do have a lot of information here about Ukraine and the situation going on there. As you can read, one of the more recent articles as of today, right there, it states that Ukraine says pact reached with Russia for safe corridors. Biden imposes new sanctions on oligarchs and more. And this is from the USA Today. It says here, Ukraine said it has, this is what the article says, and I quote, Ukraine has said, okay, let me reread that. It's from today, from the USA Today. It says, Ukraine said it has agreed with Russia to create safe corridors backed by ceasefires to evacuate civilians and deliver aid as a second round of negotiations began Thursday amid Russia's ferocious assault on its neighbor. Officials from both nations met in Belarus as the war entered its second week. Russian President Vladimir Putin has demanded Ukraine accept demilitarization, declare itself neutral, and drop its bid to join NATO. So obviously it's all about the fact that he doesn't want them to have a military. He wants them to be a neutral country or neutral state and not, even consider joining NATO at all. In other words, what he wants, from what some people are speculating and talking about, is he wants Ukraine to at least, not at least, but he wants Ukraine mainly to come back to Russia. He wants it to be, once again whole with Russia, and thus create a new version of the Soviet Union. Now it goes on to continue, and I said, continue in you here, and it says, and I quote, the Biden administration also extended its pressure campaign against Putin's government with a new round of sanctions on Russian oligarchs and a freeze on their possessions. Ukraine's major cities have come under heavy bombardment, a senior Defense Department official said Thursday. About 90% of 150,000 combat forces Putin deployed to Ukraine's borders are now inside the country, said the official, who described the military movements on condition of animality or whatever, animality. I don't know. It's like anonymity is what it is. It says southern cities are taking the brunt of Russian power. Farther north, a 40-mile Russian convoy headed to Kyiv, heading for Kyiv, has lingered about 15 miles outside the capital city for 2 or 3 days. The official also says that Russian forces have drawn nearer to Kyiv, Ukraine's second largest city, hitting residential areas. It was not clear that they have targeted civilians, the officials say. It says, the sky, according to the article, the sky over Ukraine remains contested, the official said, and the majority of the country's air and missile defenses are still viable. The Ukraine military continues to fly its warplanes, said the official. Okay. So basically what it is, again, it's like, Putin, everybody's saying Putin is like a modern day Hitler, and I don't think that's exaggerating whatsoever. I do agree with Matt of Animat's Crazy Cartoon podcast recently. That's not an exaggeration. He's like a modern day Hitler. But, the question is, why is he doing this? And again, everybody's speculating he wants Ukraine to rejoin with Russia to recreate, or at least begin the stages of recreating the Soviet Union. And, it's just like, dude, the Soviet Union was in the 80s. It died 40-something years ago. Get over it, right? Get over it. Well, almost, not 40-something years ago. It died basically over 30 years ago. Get over it. But, apparently he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to get over it or something. I don't know. Now, they say the latest developments are that French President Emmanuel Macron spoke by phone with Putin for 90 minutes and now believes the worst is yet to come. A Macron aide told France 24, or a Macron, okay, but let me read that. These are the latest developments. It states, French President Emmanuel Macron spoke by phone with Putin for 90 minutes and now believes the worst is to come. An aide to the French president, told France 24. Putin reportedly vowed to conduct an uncompromising fight in Ukraine. It says acclaimed soprano. Acclaimed soprano Anna Notelbruck has withdrawn from her upcoming New York performances after not complying with the Metropolitan Opera's condition that she repudiate her public support for Putin. So basically, an opera singer is not going to perform or anything because she supports Putin. Continuing on, President Joe Biden, Australian President. Let me read that. Continuing on, President Joe Biden, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Prime Minister Fumio Kishida of Japan conferred via telephone, agreeing to a channel for communication as they address and respond to the crisis. It says, Swedish do-it-yourself furniture maker IKEA said it has paused all export and import in and out of Russia and Belarus. In a stunning reversal, Russia and Belarusian athletes have been banned from the Winter Paralympic Games for the country's roles in the war in Ukraine, the International Paralympic Committee said Thursday in Beijing. It goes on to say, a Southern Korean pharmaceutical company manufacturing Russia's COVID-19 vaccine says it's bracing for business complications as the U.S.-led West escalates section. Okay, it says a Southern Korean pharmaceutical company manufacturing Russia's COVID-19 vaccine says it's bracing for business complications as the U.S.-led West escalates sanctions against Russia. Okay, and it continues on. It says, White House sanctions Russian oligarchs, freezes their assets. It says the White House said officials are working with governments across the globe to identify and freeze the assets of Russian elites and their family members, including yachts, luxury apartments, and money in each country's respective jurisdictions. Okay, it says these being sanctioned include, I'm not going to say some of them, but it includes Putin's press secretary, as well as an owner of the world's largest yacht and Russia's largest privately owned aircraft. The yacht was recently seized by Germany. The White House called Yilmaz a close ally, or called the guy in charge of the yacht a close ally of Putin. It says the Biden administration is also imposing travel restrictions on 19 Russian oligarchs and the 47 family members and close associates. According to the White House, those oligarchs are known for directing, authorizing, funding, or supporting Russia's foreign policy. The administration has taken steps to place visa restrictions on the group. It says Joe Biden said the sanctions are cutting off Russia's access to technology in the global financial system, and that they are having a deep impact. This is from Biden himself. He says the goal is to maximize the impact on Putin in Russia and minimize the harm and loss to our allies and friends around the world. Our interest is in maintaining the strongest unified economic impact campaign on Putin in all of history. Now it goes on to say that Russia is hammering Ukraine's southern cities and everything. You can probably read that right there if you want to. As well as right there at the top. But yeah, basically all this really is. It says White House seeks $10 billion for Ukraine, and another one's to help support them to deliver additional humanitarian security and economical assistance in Ukraine and the neighboring regions in the coming days and weeks and everything, which obviously is good. And yeah, there's a see here. It says Putin's siege attacks could bring mass destruction and death to Ukraine. It says Putin nuclear talk sparks run an Iden pills. In other words, he's talking about nuclearness, but I don't think that's going to be, something we have to worry about because, any country right now with the U.S. helping them will not allow that to occur. It says U.S. colleges denounce Russia, pull out of country. The World Health Organization said Wednesday that the ongoing invasion of Russian forces in Ukraine will allow COVID-19 to spread easily across the country, concerning health officials that the situation will result in many cases going undetected as attacks are made at healthcare facilities. It says Biden banned Russia from U.S. airspace. It says Biden announced the U.S. is closing off airspace to all Russian flights during his State of the Union address Tuesday, a decision with a sprawling geographic impact because of the numerous territories in the Pacific Ocean. And then last but not least, they talk about China. This is one that's interesting. China asked Russia to delay Ukraine invasion after Olympics. And they don't know whether or not China knew about this or the China president knew about this or whatever the case may be. But when you read all this, when you look up all that, maybe I shouldn't have printed all that, but still, I've got the ink to do it now. I've got like the 63XL ink, if you will. Probably shred this later. But when you look at all that, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at all that, you read all that, I should say, you look at the topic that I'm starting out with here, asking whether or not, it's, whether it's part of biblical prophecy. The reason I bring this up is mainly the fact that, I've made it no secret. I'm a born-again Christian. My mom is a born-again Christian. She is what's known as a prayer warrior. And what a prayer warrior is someone that, well, I'll put it this way. If they were given the chance to step in for their church's reverend or pastor or whatever, to, do the sermon for that day, they're the kind of people, and I say it with all due respect, Lord, all due respect, God and Lord. I say it with all due respect. They're the kind of people that would step in not only to do the sermon, but let's say you have a time restraint or a time limit, depending on where you have church at, building wise. They're the kind of people, and again, I say it with all due respect, Lord, no offense. They're the kind of people that will go on and preach for a long time, for longer than they should. And that's the truth. I mean, my pastor at my church, he tries to make sure he hits the time limit, right on time or a little before it. He tries to hit it a little before it, but if he goes over, he tries to only go over by a few moments or a few minutes. My mom, on the other hand, is the kind of prayer warrior that, again, if given the chance, to step in and do the sermon, and knowing that she has a time limit, she would basically, because of the rental of the building, she's the kind that would go way beyond the time limit. She would be the kind that basically, if she could, and she, being the matriarch of the family, maybe she'd be the kind that would sit us all down before we get ready to eat dinner, before we're getting ready to open, or sing, getting ready to sing happy birthday or open presents during Christmas, whatever. She's the kind that would sit us down, hand us each a Bible or something like that, and then get her Bible out and say, before we do all this, we're going to do a Bible study for the next 40 minutes or the next hour or so. She'd be the kind to do that. Not saying she's the only one. And again, Lord, I say this with all due respect, no offense. But she would be the kind to do that. And she's also the kind that, like my pastor and anybody else that's talked about the situation and thought along the same lines, they look at this Ukraine invasion by Russia, and they point out the fact that this has all been prophesied. That when you look through the Bible, whether it's the NIV Bible, the King James, or the NEV, or whatever, the American Standard, when you read through the Bible, whether it's of Mormon belief, or it's Catholic, or even Jehovah's Witness, whatever, most of them at most times will say in one incarnation or another, and Lord forgive me for getting it wrong, please forgive me for that, but in one incarnation or another, any one of those will pinpoint a lot of what's going on here, being prophesied and talked about back in the days of Jesus, or even as well as even before then. But these are things, that are depicted in some shape, form, or manner, no matter what kind of version of the Bible you have based on your religion. It is depicted that this is going to happen. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to believe, because they're like, there's no way they could have known. But here's the thing. I want you to really think about it. Some of the events that have taken place is recently that we feel, we're wondering, why is this happening? Why did this happen? Why did this occur? What about this? What about that? Again, no matter what version of the Bible you read, based on your religion, one way or another, and Lord forgive me for getting it mixed up, one way or another, it tells you in just one paragraph, or a few, or one chapter, or half a chapter, whatever, or a whole verse or half a verse, it tells you exactly what's going to occur. It may not describe to you how, or not the how, but it may not describe to you who is involved in the situation, but it pretty much will tell you almost to a T that this is what's prophesied to occur. And it's all being done because we all know, because of the fact that the day is coming, known as the rapture, known as the 7 years of tribulation, stuff like that. And that these kind of events, unfortunately, have to happen because it's prophesied. Now, like I said, I know nobody wants to believe that, because to them, when they hear people bring that up, to them, it's like, oh, so what are we supposed to do according to this Bible? What are we supposed to do? Be nice to people? Nice to people that might be rude? someone that might shove me and say, get out of my way. And instead of us wanting to knock the block off, we're supposed to be, oh, no problem, bless you. You know, there's a lot of people that, you know, when you tell them that, have that kind of reaction because they don't want to believe it. They don't want to have to believe that, oh, so the only way we make this world better is just to be nice to each other, even if that person's rude to me or whatever, or they cut me off. You know, and the answer would be yes. It would be yes. But here's the thing. We all know that's not possible because we're all human. We're all human. But the thing is, if you ask somebody in your family that is considered a prayer warrior and everything, you know, whether that person is part of the church you go to, or they are, you know, or they're maybe or let me put it this way, or maybe they're someone that's the leader of the church, like they're the pastor or whatever. You know, most of the time they will tell you, you know, that things like this happen because they're prophesied. And that it has to happen no matter what, no matter how long it goes. And like I said, nobody wants to hear that because to them it's like, oh, great, so I can't do this. I can't do that because of this, because this thing says no. And here's the thing, like I said, it's not exactly to that extent because, again, we're all human. We all make mistakes. I mean, when my mom comes home sometimes and she vents because she's had a frustrating day, you know, even though she'll apologize later, there have been times where she's taken out her frustrations out on me, and I'm like, what did I do? And then she comes out later and apologizes for her frustrations because, you know, as she'll explain to me, she's just, you know, venting. She's just letting out all the anger, all the, you know, frustration she's had over the past day or so. She looks at me, and just by me saying or doing the slightest thing, even by, you know, accident with no harm or anything, she will go off and, you know, that will set her off, I should say. And she'll just go, you know, and let all the anger and frustration she's had build up come out. And then she apologizes later on because I'm like, what did I do? You know, and that's usually my answer. It's like, what did I do? You know, what did I do? Anything. So anyway, long story short, as I get ready to probably save that message in a little bit. But like I said, long story short, you know, like I said, long story short, you know, we're only human. And we can only do so much that any version of the Bible we read suggests or tells us to do. But when you look at certain chapters, you look at certain books in that Bible, no matter what version it is that you read, based on your religion or your preference, you will find something in there that depicts things like this happening because they have to, whether we like it or not. And, you know, it's all because of the fact that this, as my mom would say, this world's a fallen world. And we have to do everything in our power to make it better. And if we have to basically, you know, see something like this happening because it's part of trying to make the world better, because it's in prophecy, it's trying to get us ready for that moment, and so be it. But again, I bring this up as the first topic because I know it's a topic that gets discussed in a lot of families, whether they're religious or not. You know, they wonder, is this biblically was this prophesied to happen many years ago, centuries ago? And again, you read the Bible, no matter what version or preference, no matter what version you read, based on, you know, your preference or your religion, and somewhere in that book, it will tell you in a chapter or verse, you know, as one of the other, you know, as part of one of the other books within it, that this somehow is meant to happen. I mean, when you look at the fact that Trump, you know, helped make Israel back into its own thing, you know, Jerusalem and Israel back its own thing, that was prophesied. And a lot of people, much as a surprise, when they would go back and look at the Bible and, you know, read exactly what people say, hey, check it, go look here, and you'll see what we mean. You see what we mean in this book, in this chapter, in this verse. And people go back and they go and they open the book, they open the Bible and they read that specific area. and then they see exactly word for word what they just seen or witnessed with Trump, doing what he did for Israel, a lot of people were shocked. They're like, it can't be. But there it is. And unfortunately, things like this are part of prophecy. They are. And like I said, I know nobody wants to hear that or believe it, but again, take the opportunity, read the Bible, depending on your religion, read it, whatever preference of a Bible you read, go to the area that you feel will have probably the prophecies, listed, or at least, noted to where to find them. And when you look, you'll be surprised about what you see, about what you find. But yeah, is it biblical prophecy? If you're a born again Christian or person of religious, religious belief, then yeah, it is. But for those of you that aren't, and again, I know it's hard to even accept or believe, but that's it's your opinion. You just feel that what's going on is not right, and the guy that's running this whole show needs to be put down, and obviously I'm not in disagreement with that. But yeah, it's just one of those situations to where the question is it biblically prophesized? Well, like I said, for those that are religious belief, yes, it is. For those that don't think it is, that's up for you to decide. All right, next up, the second topic as we get ready to talk about this at 1 hour and 28 minutes, 10 seconds. Tony Khan buys Ring of Honor Wrestling and all its assets. So last night, Tony Khan's big announcement, I talked about this in the video while I was waiting for my bus. Tony Khan's big announcement last night was that he had been hyping for a while, was the fact that he had bought Ring of Honor and all its assets. In other words, he is now the owner of the company. And as I mentioned, as I mentioned in the video last night, you have to wonder exactly what this means for Ring of Honor. Now, everybody, has been thinking and has been pretty much saying, based on what they've heard, rumor-wise, speculation-wise, that Ring of Honor is going to be to AEW what Evolve during that temporary partnership was to WWE, and what NXT is to WWE when it comes to the main roster. That's what a lot of people are feeling Ring of Honor is going to be. It's going to be a feeder system. And, whether or not that's true, as I think Brian Zane put out on the Wrestling with Regret with the Week in Regret podcast with Jay Biggs. We'll find out by, the WrestleMania weekend, April 1st, if you will, what direction they're going to go with Ring of Honor. We know that the Supercard of Honor is headlined by a, champion versus champion match between Jonathan Gresham and Bandito. Basically, both of the Ring of Honor champions, but there can only be one. So that's going to happen. And there are a few other matches and talents signed. Like we got Alex Zane against Swerve Shane Strickland. The recently released Isaiah Swerve Scott, that is. So, that's going to be a good matchup. We got the Briscoes, I think, defending the tag titles as well. So they got a lot going on for Garland, Texas, outside of Dallas when it comes to WrestleMania weekend. But when it comes to this purchase of Ring of Honor, again, a lot of people are curious as to what the future is going to hold. And like I said, the Supercard of Honor on that weekend is going to tell the whole story of whether or not, hey, this is what's happening, that's what's happening, this is the direction we're going in. We'll have to see. Now, my theory is this. My speculation and theory has been this. I believe, honestly, I believe that, AEW has this deal with the Turner Networks. And every quarter, they're supposed to supply a special. on TNT. So my thought is what they're going to do is for the next quarterly special, they're going to air Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor. It may not be AEW, but it's owned by the AEW owner. Thus, it's pretty much not only his property, but it's a property of All Elite Wrestling. As many people may not want to admit to that, it is. So, to me, when I look at what AEW can utilize or what they could do to fill out some of these obligations for these quarterly specials with TBS, with the Turner Networks, I should say, when it comes to TNT, I think the Supercard of Honor is one way of doing it. I really do. I think the Supercard of Honor is a perfect opportunity for them to do this, to make it happen, if you will. Basically, it's a good way. It's an opportunity for them to do this, to fulfill those obligations, to make it happen, and they don't have to worry about it entirely being an AEW show, and at all. And what they do is they give Ring of Honor, Tony Khan's newest acquisition, exposure more so than it's ever had, and it'll be really interesting in front of a worldwide audience exactly what direction they're going to go in with Ring of Honor, after Supercard of Honor on WrestleMania weekend. But the question again, a lot of people have is, will it be a feeder system? And that might sound like it's the more likely scenario, because as I mentioned in the video last night, and everybody else has been bringing this up, AEW has a massive roster. So why not field your newest acquisition in Ring of Honor with some of the men and women that don't get the opportunity to shine that much on Dynamite, on Rampage, and even at times on Dark and Dark Elevation? Why not put them on Ring of Honor and let them compete there? Let them show what they can do there in front of an audience. And I think that's a great idea. I really think it's a great idea. And if you want to, you could, have an established, Team ROH face a Team AEW in a future Blood and Guts match, to see who's the better, who has the better roster to an extent, if they wanted to do that. But there's a lot of, opportunity to be had here. There really is. I mean, as I mentioned before, you look at Honor No More, who's in Impact, and you look at the fact that only one of them in PCO has got a contract with Impact Wrestling. The others can go and come as much as they please, no matter what company they're a part of. Honor No More, I think, would be a great reacquisition for Tony Khan's Ring of Honor. It would be a great reacquisition. And like I said last night, one of the things that you can do to help kick off this new beginning for Ring of Honor is you could have Honor No More, disrupt Supercard of Honor, declare war on this new Ring of Honor, have Maria come out and declare war on Tony Khan, and basically feud with him for true ownership. Like what you could do is what I'm trying to say is you could have her come out and acknowledge that, she's the one that helped put the women's division on the map in Ring of Honor. So she should have been the one to get first crack at potentially buying the company. You could do that, and I think it would work out perfectly for someone like Maria Kanellis. But, to me, it's legitimately, like I said last night, it's legitimately a wait and see, situation right now when it comes to Ring of Honor. Now, part of the assets is, they do get the video library, which, again, as I mentioned and anybody else has mentioned, is going to really be beneficial to them, especially if they want to hype up certain, upcoming feuds and storylines, like, with Adam Cole, Adam Page. They had time in Ring of Honor. You could show, video footage and pictures of them being in Ring of Honor, as themselves, as teammates, as part of the Bullet Club. You could do that. It would help hype up the match in a big way. You can look at Red Dragon. You talk about their time in Ring of Honor. if you want to start doing the feud with the Young Bucks and how they've crossed paths, and then maybe that Red Dragon hasn't had the success that they would hope for against the Young Bucks, and maybe vice versa. I mean, the opportunity is there. The opportunity is absolutely there for Tony Khan and AEW to really utilize what they now have to the full advantage, in my opinion. So I think it's a great move. Honestly, I really do. I think it's a great, move for Tony Khan to make to acquire a Ring of Honor, whether or not he uses it as a feeder system or he tries to continue promoting it as its own individual entity. We'll have to, like I say, legitimately wait and see, as we get close to Supercard of Honor on WrestleMania weekend, exactly what he plans to do. Because it is one of those situations that, in my opinion, could either benefit in the end all the fans and a lot of the men and women that are competing, that are part of AEW and want to still have another place to go if they don't get enough time, in All Elite Wrestling. Or it could be something that blows up in Tony Khan's face. Like I said last night, Ring of Honor, some people will point this out. Ring of Honor probably could be looked at as a backup, company for Tony Khan to fall back on if AEW, in their opinion, implodes and he needs another place for his men and women to compete. And hey, here's this Ring of Honor that he purchased previously that can be that place. But again, legitimately, it's wait and see. Supercard of Honor, I think, is going to tell us a lot as we get closer to it. And that's really all I can say on it. Like I said, again, is it, a lot of people are thinking it's going to be a feeder system, which again, very likely it could be. But, we'll have to wait. We'll have to see what they do. A lot of people are speculating that Cody Rhodes is going to come back and lead the Ring of Honor charge, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to hear someone like let's say a Just Alex and a JD, bring this up, and all they're going to hear out of them is just, fans, people that love wrestling that are just, desperate to want to make sure Cody doesn't, really consider going to WWE, even though talks have slowed down. They don't want to have to consider, Cody heading there. So they're going to try everything in their power to be like, what if Cody leaving is all about this deal and he's going to come back with this? Because they don't want Cody in WWE. Because they know if that happens, like I've said before, it makes AEW look like everybody else. But I think, honestly, right now, this is a good move for, Tony, for Ring of Honor to have, for me to, not for me, but I think it's a good move for Tony Khan to make. I'm really gonna be curious as to exactly how this is going to affect, everybody's still involved or still having connections with Ring of Honor. I mean, Brian Zane basically came out on the Reek and Regret podcast and said he's going to be a co-host or a guest host or whatever for the Supercard of Honor weekend. So he might still be, employed by Ring of Honor, and Tony Khan might keep him on board. We might see Brian Zane show up on AEW. Who knows? Because of this. But it's going to be interesting in the long run. And like I said, and everybody else has said it as well, legitimately, it's a wait-and-see situation. But with that said, as we get into the next topic at an hour and 40 seconds and at an hour and 40 minutes and 40 seconds, the next topic, tons of entertainment, sports, etc. being pulled from Russia because of its invasion. Okay, I'm going to try to make this short and sweet, but I'm pretty sure you've heard by now that one of the more anticipated movies that I'm going to talk about later, The Batman, has been pulled from Russia. And it is the true. Russia is not going to get the Batman anymore, as far as we know right now. WWE Network has decided to pull all its content and programming away from its Russian streaming service affiliate called Match. They've decided to pull that out as well. We've heard that the Russian Olympic Paralympic team has been banned from the Paralympics in Beijing. You know, that's happening. We've heard that the Russian soccer team is not going to be allowed in the World Cup because of what's going on. And there's a lot of other stuff being pulled as well from an entertainment and athletic sports standpoint. And honestly, Russia has no one to blame but themselves. Well, if actually those in Russia that are not in agreement with this war, they have no one to blame but the president, Putin. Because if it wasn't for him wanting to do this, then they wouldn't have lost everything that they've lost. They wouldn't have lost the opportunity to watch one of the more anticipated movies of the year. You know, they wouldn't have lost any of that. But because the president wants to be a jackass and wants to try to recreate or try to resurrect the Soviet Union, as people put it, wants to be, as some people call him, a modern day Hitler. Yeah, he's pretty much costing his country a lot of opportunity and fun. All because the guy's mindset is to Ukraine, don't join NATO, demilitarize, be this, be that. And, you know, hopefully with all these sanctions coming down on him and his country, he is hopefully, pray to God, he's going to pull out, and maybe he might explain his actions. Who knows? Maybe he'll explain his actions. Maybe he wants to, reunite with Ukraine for every 4 years for the Olympics. So it's not just two separate countries, but it's one whole country or whatever. Who knows? Who knows? But until he decides to do the smart thing and pull out and stop this nonsense, his country is going to lose a lot, over, what they're doing, over what's going on. They're going to lose out on great entertainment. They're going to lose out on athletic opportunities. They're going to lose out financially on money and anything in money and airspace. They're going to lose a lot. They're going to lose a lot in a big way because of this. So, like I said, trying to make this short and sweet. Trying to make this short and sweet. If you're someone that's curious as to why studios like Disney and Warner Brothers, why sports entertainment conglomerates like, WWE, AEW, all of them are pulling out of Russia, why they're doing this, discontinuing this and that, it's because of this invasion. And the only way I think Russia will get a chance to get any of this back, ladies and gentlemen, is if their president finally comes to his damn senses, or at least somebody knocks him upside his head like that and makes him wake up and realize that this is a mistake. Because what's going to happen is it's going to plunge his country into a major debt they can't get out of. Because if, the U.S. and the rest of the world is cutting off their financial resources in a big way, along with the airspace and stuff, then yeah, that's going to be a situation that they can't get themselves out of, whatsoever. And they're going to have to, well, basically, either, suck it up and end this thing, or continue being stupid and, continue this nonsensical invasion, if you know what I mean. Hopefully somebody knocks them upside their head and makes them realize how stupid this is, because you're costing yourself and you're costing your country. And it's not just money you're costing them either. It's a lot more things. But that's all I'm going to say on that, guys. That's all I'm going to say on it. Next up, and I'll get into that in a moment. Let me go turn on some lights here, guys. Yeah, I just have to turn on some light, guys, and everything as well as also take the voice message off or save it anyway. But anyway, long story short, back to the topics on my mind here. We're going to our fourth topic here. Vince McMahon's interview on the Pat McAfee show today. Yes. One of the other things wrestling related that was being promoted was Vince McMahon's first sit down interview in about 15 years on the Pat McAfee show. Pat McAfee, of course, was a former punter, kicker for the Indianapolis Colts. He recently signed, he has been part of WWE for like a couple of years now. He was a correspondent, panelist, if you will, during the kickoffs. He got involved with NXT and a feud with Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era. And then now he's on SmackDown as a commentator. And as we know of, officially today, he will be at WrestleMania competing. We don't know who his opponent will be, but a lot of people are speculating that it will be Austin Theory and not Vince McMahon, as some people thought it would be. Now, this is from NoDQ.com, courtesy of Aaron Rift. Big shout out to Aaron. This is the highlights that he listed from the interview today, and I quote, Vince McMahon appeared on Thursday's edition of the Pat McAfee show and talked about running the WWE product and his approach to the business. Here are some of the quotes and highlights. And by the way, I'll probably timestamp this at 1 hour and 50 so you guys can find it. The highlights were McMahon was late to the interview, but said that apologizing for being late means nothing. McMahon added that if you're going to be late, at least look good. The other highlight, he says, I don't believe in ceilings. I don't think milestones or pats on the back. I just think about enjoying what you're doing and doing it. The other highlight, if you listen to the positives, you have to listen to the negatives. If people think you're an asshole, you can't change that. And I think, one thing about Pat is he's not going to hold anything back or anything. He's going to, try to, do a talk very calmly and everything. And, try to be down to earth with them. And with, McMahon saying that if people think you're an asshole, you can't change that. That's pretty much speaking, I guess, on behalf of the fact that there's a lot of folks, a lot of fans nowadays that don't like him, period. Especially for him still being around. Another highlight was McMahon said it took him 30 minutes to decide on, quote unquote, getting the F out and switch WWF to WWE. In other words, he's saying it took him a half hour to basically say, what can I go from WWF to, what can I change WWF to? And it's like, it sounds, man, I wish it was get, it's got to be something along the lines, if he was thinking, I got to get this thing out, the F out of my head, that's probably where it came from. So he said it took him 30 minutes to decide on, quote unquote, getting the F out and switch WWF to WWE. The other thing that was highlighted here by Aaron, McMahon said that none of what he does is work as he loves it. Okay, this look at that highlight again. The highlight here is McMahon said that none of what he does is work as he loves it. McMahon then announced that he will be inducting The Undertaker into the Hall of Fame. And that's obviously a question a lot of people were wondering about, who would induct, Undertaker into the Hall of Fame. Well, I guess after Glenn Jacobs' comments about what's been going on recently on social media, he was out. So now you have to put in McMahon. And obviously McMahon's the best choice, in my opinion, no matter what you think of the guy. The next highlight, McMahon talked about how he's never against bringing anybody back to WWE if that is what the audience wants. Quote, he says, creatively, I listen well, and I think that's important because you can't learn if you're talking. Well, I can sometimes. And some people will find that debatable, believe me. The other thing he talked about was, and I quote, highlight, I'm probably one of the few people in the world who enjoys confrontation. I learned as a kid that if I live through that beating, I win, and I'm just wired differently. Now, the reason he said this, and I quote, I'm probably one of the few people in the world who enjoys confrontation. I learned as a kid that if I live through that beating, I win, and I'm just wired differently. He said that because Pat McAfee brought up AEW, he brought up Impact, he mostly brought up AEW Ring of Honor, and this was McMahon's own way of basically sending a message to Tony Khan and to AEW and all of them that, hey, you can beat me down as much as you want through the ratings, through the demographics, but as long as I'm still standing and I'm still breathing and I still have a product that's producing, producing, content, then I still win. And I know for one, and I hate to say this, I know that kind of eats at the skin of a lot of fans out there that are strong AEW enthusiasts, because to them, when they hear something like that, being basically being a shoot legitimately, to them, that's a way of telling that to them, that's like them just basically, hearing that to them, that's like them coming to the realization of, oh, great. So no matter how good AEW is, from this standpoint or that standpoint, as long as this guy's still producing his content and he's still around, we're screwed. Because that's pretty much what it was. And this was just something that he put there because he just was asked the question, and then they went back to talking about The Undertaker, and everything. He just brushed it off after that. Another thing he talked about, he said, and this is again another highlight from the interview, in regards to the talent cuts, McMahon said it's sometimes best to cut the dead rate, and it's not personal. Now, believe me, there's a lot of fans that are going to read that, and they're going to be like, so you're saying Keith Lee was dead weight. You're saying Braun Strowman was dead weight and everything. And that it's not personal? Well, it may not, because here's the thing. What Vince is saying is, hey, it's not personal to me. It's not personal, it's nothing personal between me and the talent. They know that. But what obviously Vince doesn't realize is, although it may not be personal between the two, between him and the talent that's let go, it's personal to the fans. Another highlight he brought up is, in regards to favorite WWE moments, Vince cited WrestleMania 1 as it was very important to him because of everything he had on the line. McMahon then says, in another highlight, McMahon talked about how he trains from 1:30 to 3 a.m. and has a bad habit of overtraining. McMahon said he trains mainly to blow off steam as it helps him mentally handle his workload. This is McMahon saying this, and I quote, I do this for my head more than I do for my body. Another highlight, he said, is in regards to Saudi Arabia, Vince said Saudi fans are the same as fans everywhere. McMahon talked about how people love Western culture, but not their government. This is McMahon saying it, and I quote, cultures are cultures. You have to respect that. There you go. Another highlight, McMahon said that most decisions he make come down to common sense. Yeah. You want to try telling that to a diehard fan, Vince? I'm just saying. The other highlight, McMahon talked about how he loves branding. McMahon said the word stupendous isn't used often, sounds grand, and it's attention grabbing for WrestleMania. The other highlight is in regards to why wrestlers are called superstars. Vince said, and I quote, any wrestler, let me reread that. Let me reread this. Hold on. Okay. He says, the next highlight that I was trying to read, I messed up on. The next highlight is, in regards to why wrestlers are called superstars, Vince said, and I quote, anyone can wrestle either poorly or well. Vince, that's what Vince said of a WWE superstar. Or Vince said, I should say. Okay, let me reread that. Okay. He says, and this is a highlight. It says, in regards to why wrestlers are called superstars, Vince said, and I quote, anyone can wrestle either poorly or well. Vince said that and then it goes on to say that Vince said that a WWE superstar, quote unquote, sounds better than a professional wrestler. And it is a term, and it is a team effort to make someone a superstar. So, so basically what he's saying here is that basically anyone can wrestle either poorly or well. And that, the reason people are called superstars is it sounds better than professional wrestler, and it's a team effort to make someone a superstar. So in other words, what he's saying is, hey, I'm willing to work with you, if you will, to make this idea work. But you have to be willing to work with me. We have to work as a team. Like, in other words, if Vince goes to Seth and says, I want to take the freaking off and everything and just call you Seth Rollins again, but I want to give you the new name of the Go-Getter or the lightest Seth Rollins. Seth could be the kind of guy that's like, okay, I can work with that. And him and Vince could be a team working that over. If you know what I mean. Another highlight is McMahon gave praise to McAfee and then offered McAfee an opportunity to compete at WrestleMania. McAfee accepted, and Vince said he'll find an opponent for him. So that's obviously going to be Austin Theory. Another highlight was in regards to creative freedom. McMahon said he tries to give people more creativity as possible because it makes them more invested, but added, quote, you do need to lead. So in other words, what he's saying, because a lot of people are always wondering, Vince, why don't you give creative freedom to your talent? And Vince's answer is, hey, here, obviously, he's basically tries to give people more creativity, as possible because it makes them more invested, but added that you do need to lead. So in other words, what he's saying is that, look, I'm willing to give these people as much creative freedom as possible, but there are times I'm going to have to step in and lead them in a direction that I feel that they could take that character or that idea. Another highlight is, and that'd be the phone again. That'd be my mom. Well, no, that's my job. Hello?
Hi, is this Brian?
Yeah.
Hi, Brian. It's Melissa.
Yeah. Okay. Hello? Hello?
Hey, what are you doing?
Well, I just talked to my my friend and manager, Alyssa. She wants me to come in 10 to 4 tomorrow. And I'm going to be fair for us. Yeah.
Shannon keeps telling me about the commute. That's why I know the commute, Shannon. I know it is hard. I'm not saying it's not, but I gotta finish the year out, and then I have to put it up to speed about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's up to you, Mom. Did you know that I find out, Mom? Yeah, because Mom, if you don't say something now, I'm gonna notice it on Saturday. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happens everything? No.
Hey, that right?
All right, sorry about that. That was my mom. She had called me. Basically, long story short, what happened is she fell at work, and it wasn't. I'll get into that in a moment. Okay, but getting back into the topic here. Um, but yeah, basically, what Vince is saying is, he's willing to give creative freedom. Well, he tries to in some ways, but the people he wants to give who want that freedom have to work as a team with him. So he has to sometimes lead them and say, "This is the direction I think you can go with this character." Next highlight was McMahon said WWE has a focus group every night and partially listens to social media feedback. So at least they have, a group that, probably goes out and wonders, okay, what is this? What is that? How can we do this? Basically a focus group is like, trying to figure out what is, something that fans would like to see more of, invested in. And also, they do, look at the feedback socially, the social media feedback, but not as much. All right. The other highlights were that McMahon called Brock Lesnar a quote unquote smart son of a bitch because he knows what he's doing, obviously. Another highlight, McMahon talked about loving live TV because nothing can go wrong if the audience doesn't know what was supposed to happen. The other one, McMahon jokingly referred to Michael Cole as a quote unquote horrible human being, and everyone in the studio burst out laughing. Gotta wonder if Michael Cole is going to play into that on Friday. The other one, in regards to being a good heel, McMahon said, quote, "You want people to honestly dislike you." And that is true. The other highlight, McMahon talked about how he prefers being off camera so he doesn't miss out on directing and producing. McMahon said he gets to live vicariously through all the other performers on the show. The other thing he says, the other highlight he says, and I quote, "Nobody is ever going to know if I'm tired." And then the interview ended with McMahon saying that he enjoyed this, guys, and thanks him very much. So everybody, believe it or not, so far has praised this interview that McAfee has had with Vince, and thought it was very, very well done. That they praised McAfee for being able to humanize a lot of folks, basically bring them down to earth, bring them back to reality. Just get to know them, better and everything. Try to just bring out the real them and all that. Try to basically make them feel comfortable and not on edge or all that. Like, let's say Bob Costas did with Vince over a couple decades, about a decade or so ago. 2 decades, I think. So, yeah, the interview looked good. The interview was from what I've seen so far, looked great. I think it was done well. And yeah, it's it's the first time he's done a sit down interview in like 15 years. And I thought it was done well. And again, McAfee, the one thing you got to say about his show, no matter who he has on there, no matter whether he has no guests and he just talks with his compadres there, McAfee knows how to make people feel comfortable. He really does. And that's why I think everybody likes him on SmackDown alongside Michael Cole. The fact that, he's relatable, he's energetic, and people like that in someone like a color commentator or whatever, or an announcer. They like that. So I'm cool with it. So I'm cool with McAfee having this and having done this interview, and we'll see who Vince has in store for him at WrestleMania. I think obviously the more logical conclusion is going to be Austin Theory. All right, the next topic we're going to get into at 2 hours 11 minutes and 30 seconds, as I bring it up here, 2 hours 11 minutes and 35 seconds, I should say. MLB current lockout, opening day canceled with more games to be canceled. Will the whole season follow? Now, so the gist of it is this. It's all about money. It's all about money, and the CBA is trying their best to, give the MLB players what they're asking for, but the MLB players are like, yeah, that sounds good, but it's not exactly what we're asking for. This is what we want. It's just a mess. It's just a big old mess, happening right now. And as a result, because they couldn't make, a deal happen on the last day of February, this past Monday, the opening day has been canceled, and there are more games to follow. Now, if they don't get a deal going up real soon, there is a possibility we could see the whole season go down the drain. And look, here's the thing. This is my philosophy, okay? Here's my philosophy on it. If you have one side that consists, I should say, of the people you depend on to go out there and play the game, that being the players, and they're saying, hey, we want this and this, my opinion, if you're the CBA, you're trying to work something out with them, my opinion, just give them what they want. That's it. If they say, we want this, we want this, we want that, instead of saying, well, we could do this, we could do that, let's work around with this, see what we could do. No, instead of doing that, if they're saying, give us this, we want this, we want that, we want this, we feel we've earned that, we feel we've earned this, instead of trying to debate with them, going back and forth, if I'm the CBA, I'd be like, you want that? No problem. You got yourself the deal. And that's it. Just put it just write out the paperwork, say they got a deal, done. But they don't want to do that. And I think there's a reason. That reason being that we're getting out of this pandemic, and the pandemic over the past year and a half has really hurt a lot of people financially. And baseball, the MLB, believe it or not, is one of those areas that was hit the most. So obviously, in my opinion, what the CBA is looking at is the fact that, hey, they know that this deal that the players want is the right deal, but financially, they can't do it because of the damn pandemic and what it did. So, so to me, it's just one of those scenarios to now the question is, will we even have a season? Will baseball even happen? And I'll be honest, I think it will. It will happen because I think somebody is going to have enough sense either on one side, the CBA, or the ML, or the Players Association, or the Players Association Union, or basically one person on each side. They're going to have enough sense to realize, you know what? Like with the CBA, I can see somebody being like, look, they want this, so why don't we give it to them? But we add a stipulation that we'll only give it to them when we financially get back to our, to the status we need to be at. And then maybe one of the players, that's a representative, talks with them and says, and finds out and says, okay, they're willing to do it, but we got to wait. We got to be patient. Maybe some kind of agreement of that manner occurs and all that. But again, will the season be canceled? I don't think so. I think it's just one of those scenarios right now where the money issue will be resolved. It seems like it's come close. It's getting there, but this is like one piece of the puzzle. It's like trying to put a round peg in, a square peg in a round hole. That, it's just that one situation that's a little off, but once it's fixed, things should be okay. Things should be okay, but I don't think the season's going to be canceled. I don't think, we're going to, miss out on anything. I mean, we missed out on opening day. We're going to be doing that, but still, we're not going to miss out on anything else because now you're wondering, why is opening day being canceled? Because they need to give the players, once a deal is made, they need to give the players enough time to get back in shape, get back into, back in shape, get the rust off them, probably play a few exhibition games and then go from there. And that's it. Because if they don't, can you imagine what kind of first couple of games we're going to get in the regular season? I'm just saying. So, if anything, like I said, I don't think we're going to lose the season. I don't think we will. But it's just a scenario to where, like I said, if I'm the CBA and I hear the Players Association, the Players Union saying, hey, give us this. This is all we're asking for. This is what we believe we deserve. Then if I'm the CBA, I agree to it. And if I have to add a stipulation of, hey, I agree to it, but we'll do it when we get to this certain level, and we'll have it, and it's going to be, set in stone in the contract and everything, then so be it. Just do it, in my opinion. Just do it. Because what you're doing is you're robbing the fans, not just the players, but the fans of a potentially great baseball season, in my opinion. But no, I don't think we're going to lose the season whatsoever. I think we'll still have a season. It's just going to be one of those scenarios where, basically it's one of those scenarios to where basically this kind of stuff needs to, cease to be for a while. I mean, this is the way I look at it. Once the deal is made, I go and the season gets going. If I'm the CBA and I'm the owners and all that, I meet again during the season. I say, okay, how can we avoid this? And then I come up with a solution of this is how we can avoid it and just go from there, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't think we're going to lose the season. I think basically baseball is going to be okay. It's just a lot of people are not too thrilled with this situation. And again, if I'm the CBA, I would have just given them what they wanted. That's it. I would have just given them what they wanted. Maybe, like I said, add the stipulation that once we get back to this certain tier financially, we'll fulfill our obligation, our part of the agreement to give you what you want. Because again, like I said, I honestly believe this all has to do with what's happened because of the pandemic, and they're not letting anybody know about that. So in my opinion, I don't think we'll lose the season. I think a deal will be reached. It's just a matter of time. But I don't think we'll lose the season. All right, last but not least, the sixth topic here. Will the Batman set a standard for how long comic book movies can be to tell the whole story? I forgot to put the word tell, but to tell the whole story. So in case you guys don't know, the Batman, which has come out selectively in theaters so far already, one of them being for fans, like a fan fest kind of deal, has been clocked in at about 3 hours. One of the longest superhero movies in recent memory. And, a lot of people have actually praised it for that because it gives more time for the story to be told, especially for, this kind of version of Batman we're getting. And to me, I think it's a good move to make it 3 hours because, you have an opportunity. By the way, I started this, I think, about 2:19, so I'll put it there, timestamp it there. But to me, I think it's a good move to put it at 3 hours because this is a movie that legitimately, in my opinion, is going to be a game changer. Yes, it's part of the DCEU expanded universe, if you will, not not extended, but it's more. I don't know how they're going to call it, DCEU expanded universe or something like that, or DCAU alternate universe. I don't know, but to me, it definitely is a good move to make it 3 hours because you give enough time to tell a story. And that story is basically how Batman is starting out, because it's based around, semi-based around year one, but it shows us a side of Batman that in and out of costume is very gothic, very moody. And the Riddler here apparently is more of a sadistic Riddler, and the Penguin's more of a mobster Penguin. And, you know, we get a little bit of the Penguin here, and I guess he's getting a spin-off series on HBO Max. But yeah, this is the kind of story that definitely needs a lot of time to be told, and clocking it in at 3 hours, I think is the right move to make. But the question is, will it set the standard, as the topic goes? Will it set the standard for how long comic book movies can be to tell the whole story? And I think it will. I think it will. I know some people would say Eternals and Avengers Endgame were long. Yes, they were, but not as long as Batman. Batman is supposed to be longer than both of those, you know. But, you know, will it set the standard for how long comic book movies can be to tell the whole story? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I definitely see it. I definitely see it being something that's going to set the standard, because when you get down to it, you know, one complaint that a lot of people have about comic book movies is you don't give it enough, is they are not given, I should say, they are not given enough time to tell the whole story. You know, so, you know, they're not given, you know, the whole time, you know, enough time, you know, to tell the whole story. And to me, you know, if you clock them in about 3 hours, a little around that, basically, you're giving it enough time to tell the whole story. So obviously the question is going to be asked, you know, what movie could be next? What movie could be next on the list of comic book films to get that treatment? Will Morbius be that movie? Will Craven be that movie? Will the next Wonder Woman be that movie? It's hard to say. Will Shazam be that? Not Shazam, but will Black Adam be that movie? Will Aquaman's second movie be that movie? Nobody really knows. You know, nobody really knows. But it's one that we'll have to, you know, be patient about. You know, will The Flash be that movie? We don't know. But to me, I definitely see the Batman, you know, setting that standard for not just Matt Reeves, I should say, to come back and maybe do another Batman associated or inspired movie or sequel, if you will, and, you know, bring it to that length again of near 3 hours, if not a little over. But I see other directors looking at this and being like, hey, if this guy Matt Reeves can do it, I can do it. And to me, I think, like I said, it will set the standard for the future of comic book movies and how long the movie can be to tell, the length of the film, I should say, can be to tell the whole story. You know, the question is, you know, the question basically is, when you get down to, when I was just distracted there by something. What was I saying? I just lost my train of thought. I just got distracted there. You know, by somebody that showed up in the live chat. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. You know, well, what I was trying to say is, you know, the question will come out: will Doctor Strange be one of those other films that goes around 3 hours? We don't know. But to me, this does set that precedent. It will, if now it does set a precedent, you know, and I got a hacker in here, obviously. But like I said, it does set the precedent, if you will, the fact. Yeah, I got a troll in here. Well, let me take care of that. There we go. But like I said, it's definitely going to set a precedent for for what other movies can do based on comic book films. I mean, you can't tell me somebody doesn't look at something like, let's say, another Superman film to do and think, if the Batman could be 3 hours, maybe we could do the same with Superman. Or they won't look, like I said, at potentially the next X-Men film or X-Men related film and say, if the Batman can be 3 hours, so can our X-Men film. Again, to me, I think it's definitely going to set the standard. It's going to set the standard that I believe a lot of people are going to, will be trying to emulate with their movies in the near future. I really do. But yeah, I think it does set the standard. I really do. I really think it sets the standard, and I cannot wait. Honestly, honest to God, I cannot wait to see this movie because, it's something that I truly believe I'll enjoy. I really do. I truly believe I will enjoy. There's no getting around it. There's no getting around it. I will truly, truly enjoy this. As the time goes on. But anyway, though, guys, that's all I'm going to say on it. But I do believe the Batman is going to set the standard, in my opinion, for how long movies can be based on comic books. But anyway, though, guys, I should say that's about it for today's topics on my mind for the 3rd of March, 2022. I do apologize for some of the interruptions, I should say. The person that called me just moments ago was my friend and manager. She has asked me to come in tomorrow from 10 to 4:15, which I will do. More than likely, it's to help out with carts, maybe cashiering. We'll see. Right now, it sounds like it's going to be probably carts and everything, but that's cool with me. The way I look at it, when I'm doing carts, at least I don't have to wear this. I mean, we don't have to wear it at all, basically, at work anymore, but still, there's some of us that'll still wear it because, customers, if you will, you never know what they'll bring in. But yeah, I'm going to be doing 10 to 4 tomorrow. Have to catch the the 5 o'clock bus, if you will. Maybe I'll get out early. Maybe I could start early and try to get out by at least 45 or something. We'll see. Because I do have to take the 7:30 bus, so maybe she'll have me start early and maybe let me out early. Because I'm not really supposed to be there. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, though. What was I? But yeah, again, I do apologize for the interruption. The other call I got was from my mom. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter how old you are, all right? If you're working with kids, period, if you're working with kids in a preschool or daycare, these kids, especially if they have issues, they're going to be, a disaster to work with sometimes. They're going to be hard to work with. Especially, like I said, some of them have issues. Some of them don't want to nap, stuff like that. They want to make messes. They want attention. Well, let's just say my mom basically had an accident today because of one of those kids that she's told me about. Long story short, the kid had a bunch of stuff spread across the room or her section of the room, and my mom tripped on one of these. She accidentally tripped on these, fell. She's okay and everything. They did a report. She's fine. She just got a little bruise up here because of her glasses. They fell right here and all that. And she went to the optical place in Walmart where I used to work to get them fixed and everything. But yeah, it's just one of those scenarios to where it doesn't matter how old you are when it comes to this kind of crap. You know, kids, especially if they have disabilities, mentally and all that, they're going to be trouble. And I've always come to this conclusion, and I've told my mom this on many occasions. I've told her this on many occasions. I think, honestly, what they're doing is they're trying to turn that place, that school, into that class that she has into a special ed class. You know, and she's denied it a couple of times, but the more you think about it now, the more kids that they get in there that have problems, special needs, it's like, who do you think you're kidding? You're turning this into a special ed class. You know, if that's not, viewable by the human eye, I don't know what is. But yeah, but anyway, though, she's fine. That's why she called me too, to let me know what happened. But thank God she's fine. But yeah, it doesn't matter how old you are. Stuff like this is going to happen. And honestly, it doesn't matter to me what kind of school you are, Head Start wise, preschool wise. You know, if you're going to have kids come in there that have special needs, then maybe you should have a special ed class already set up for them so that the other kids don't get disturbed by them and the teachers can work in peace. I'm just saying. But again, thankfully, she's fine and all that. And yeah, I think hopefully now that they've drawn up this report, maybe this report will include the kid in question, and maybe they'll move this kid out and say, nope, you're not going to be here anymore. And she'll be like, why? And it'll be like, no, because you're going in here. And then hopefully the sign will say special ed, because that's where kids like her belong. Honestly. But anyway, though, guys, like I said, my mom's fine. She's okay. And that's going to pretty much wrap up today's topics on my mind. Like I said, for March 3rd, 2022. Thank you all to those in the live chat that did join and did watch, as well as to those that are watching later on. Comment down below, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate your opinions there and everything, as well as check me out at BW Rose's Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast platforms except for Pandora. Also check me out at deviantart.com/BVW1979. Also check me out at Vimeo at BW Roses. Also check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2 and at Cash App at BW Roses 98. So until next time, guys, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Again, thank you to those that did join me live and are watching afterwards. And I am out. You all take care. Have a good night.